Hey YouTube, it's Mike VO10P with another, I guess, a continuation of the my ham radio operating procedure video series. I didn't do the usual CQYT intro because the gear is all turned off except for my computer, and I wanted to show basically a startup. But today's video segment is on my LDG Electronics Pt.2. Now, this is a very old watt meter. I purchased this meter back in 2004, the spring of 2004. So it'll be 20 years old this coming March. And they have since had two, maybe three more runs, I think. They went away for a while, and then they came back, and then they went away, and so they've just released the fourth run of these meters, and they released, I think, 250 of them. And unfortunately, I wasn't in a position to grab one about 2 months ago, and I think they've been purchased. They've been all bought up since, because really, at the moment, for the blind ham operator who either is just getting into using adaptive technology because they've just lost their sight, or they've been visually impaired for many, many years, certainly as a blind ham when they first got licensed. If you can find one on the used market, or you were lucky enough to get the latest run of these devices, this is the tool, because there have been a variety of accessibility tools over the years, and they've come and gone. A big favorite was the ham pod for many, many years. And it was basically a keypad, and it had some cabling on it. You plugged it into the Array Solutions Power Master series of meters. It also worked with the Elecraft series of watt meters. But the gentleman has retired from making those, I think, like 3 years ago. So this stuff now is very, very rare, and most of the blind folks who have these are hanging on to them till they die. Or, they themselves are no longer interested in operating ham radio, or they've gone silent key, and it's, their devices, their talking watt meters and stuff is left to the estate to be distributed. So, needless to say, this TW1 is a very, very big part of how I operate, which is why I decided to do this one today. Because without it, I would not be able to operate any more than 100 watts. I mean, we've all seen, and we all have, the solid state rig, right? With the built-in tuner and the whole 9 yards. It's not that huge of a deal. You can go on the internet and see anybody, tune up their 7300s, and, either with external automatic antenna tuners. Some of you probably have them, or just use the straight internal antenna tuner on the rig. So there's really no big deal. Turn it on, tune around, hit your tune button, right? Then you're off and running. But when you're running power, as I do, and being blind, you need these devices, because you need to measure SWR. You need to hear that announced. When you're running power, you need to hear reflected power. You need to hear forward power. Now, my rig can certainly announce those things: SWR, ALC, drive power, the whole 9 yards. But and I apologize for the there's a little bit of noise in the background. I don't know if it's going to show up on the video, but we have Christmas decorations up, and my shack is in fact is in my porch, at one end of my porch. So on the door we have some pine coney type Christmas decorations, and we have a north wind blowing at the moment, so it's blowing across the door and moving the Christmas decoration, and it's kind of scraping on the glass of the window. It would be more befitting for Halloween, to be honest, and not Christmas, but unless it's a part of the that Christmas song. It's a wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There's a lyric in there telling ghost stories, so I guess it works for that. Yeah, so back to the TW1. So it announces forward power, it announces reflected, and it announces SWR, and it also has a variable tone mode that allows you to tune for max power when you're operating tubed equipment, not only amplifiers, but if you had a tubed exciter, which I did once. It also lowers in pitch as you're bringing down your SWR and so on. But they're, like I said, they're getting very, very rare, and those that have them are hanging on to them. They're worth their weight in. I'm going to quote Star Trek now. What, Latinum? I think was the big thing in Star Trek universe, which is way better than platinum. So they're worth their weight in Latinum, we'll say. So as you can see, there's not much to it. It's just a knob and 3 buttons. So I'll reach and excuse my hand. So there's no on-off. You plug it in. It uses a wall wart, and I think it consumes maybe 200 milliamps, I think. 12 volts, 200 milliamps. I could probably integrate it into the amplifier because there is an accessory on the back of the amplifier, and I could probably plug this right in there. But as it happens, I've been using this now as it is for like nearly 20 years. So you've got a volume knob and 3 buttons.
The forward power is 0.01.
So obviously there's no power because the rig isn't on. And let me see if I can do a tone. No, because it needs an RF carrier as well to generate a tone. So without further ado, I'm going to fire up the gear, and I'm going to show you how I tune up my amplifier, tune up my manual tuner. Now, the tuner won't be in the shot. I want to keep the camera kind of where it is. I guess the amplifier will jump in here when I turn everything on, because I'm just operating the camera myself today. So I want to really demonstrate what the TW1 can do. Now, I've had I've had some maintenance done on it, obviously, over the last 20 years, because it's old, and it does have maybe a 5% inaccuracy on the actual power going out. But this is what I have to work with. And generally, it is pretty good. Like, I mean, when I tune up my amplifier here, you're going to hear maybe 630 watts or whatever the case may be. And it'll be closer to 8 by the time I'm done. But I've had my meters checked by a sighted individual, and all of my grid and plate currents are all great. Running roughly about 130 on the grid, 300 on the plate, and so I'm well into safety parameters. So let's get going. I'll fire up the gear, and I'm going to tune up on 40 meters because I need to adjust the antenna tuner. Actually, I might just tune up on 80 meters because I was last on 40. So I would really like to hear, for you guys to hear the tones working. And I had my headphone plugged in. 17005. So the rig announces everything when it powers on. It announces the frequency you were on and so on. Now, I'll try not to bump the camera. Amplifier's on. And let me turn up the volume here. I'm in the dummy load at the moment. Okay, so this is the dipole. So we'll go to 80 meters. Hopefully there won't be... There is a contest today, I think a Navy activity.
3.7950.
So we're on 3795, and usually the first thing I do is tune my antenna. So I'm going to go and,
EX power 40.
so we're at 40 watts. Bring it up to 100.
100.
See, this is why the Kenwood is so great with its voice guide system, because this makes this real easy, because the rig tells me a lot of parameters, and it's too bad that the VGS1 has been discontinued. So I don't know what we're going to do moving forward with blind capable radios. I really don't know what we're going to do, which is why we need to get behind this. It's not a big thing in the market, I'm aware. Yaesu has pointed that out to me more than once, as did ICOM. But, you know, we are a demographic. We are a group of ham radio operators that deserve to have equal opportunity to play radio like you know, you guys, like you sighted folks. So, and software you can do so much with software. Like I've got an Android smartphone. So why can't they shove Android on a rig and let us use the touchscreen? I can use an Apple iPhone. Same thing, right? It wouldn't be too difficult. Might take some tweaking, obviously, but you know, it wouldn't cost a radio company $2 million to put Android on a rig and develop an accessibility framework. But I digress. All right, so we are on the dipole on 3795, and I'm not hearing anything.
EX power 100.
So I go to RTTY mode to generate a carrier, and I have to put my meter into SWR tone mode. So you heard that little bleep, and I better double check, make sure my amp is not in operate. That would be pretty stupid, wouldn't it, if I hit that with 100 watts on the wrong band and out of tune. And we're good. So that tells me I have a very, very high SWR. And I'll just check what the radio says. Over, which means it's greater than 3 to 1. So now we have to tune this out. And this is how I will tune this out. So typical manual antenna tuner stuff, I guess we've all seen that. We've all used some form of probably a manual antenna tuner. You have your roller inductor and your capacitor knob and and things like that. So we have to bring this down. Key up. Hear the tone drop. See? Still too high. So now we go into our adjustments. Very touchy. And the idea is to get the lowest tone possible. Now I know, you know, you're saying, well, you're putting QRM out, but I mean, how else do you tune your antenna? You don't tune your antenna manually in a dummy load. You got to tune your antenna on the air. So there's nothing there. We listened. So now I will check the SWR.
R 1.5.
Still 1.5. Okay. Don't really like that. It's very Very touchy.
R 1.0.
Okay.
The SWR is 1.021.
So they match.
The reflected power is 0.0.
No reflected power.
The forward power is 106 watts.
Okay. So we're looking good there.
P100.
So as you can hear, the meter is a little off, 106 versus 100. So now I go back to the dummy load, reduce my power down to 10 watts.
PX power. PX power 10.
And the power is set to 10 watts. Band switch to 80 meters. And I usually preset my load controls, plate and load controls to, like, you know, vertical, as close to where I think they're going to be. And so that should be good there. And now I engage the forward power tone. And now you will hear the tone increase as the power goes up. Double check my
Power 10.
TX power, and we're at 10 watts. So here we go. Had my load way off. I'll stop and take a break. And go again. Okay, and we'll check the power.
The forward power is 206 watts.
Okay. Oh, almost bumped it again. Now, I'll bring my power up
20.
20 watts. And go on the plate. Okay. And we'll go to 40.
40.
And this is where I actually stop, like after the tuning up with 40 watts. Okay. Take a reading.
The forward power is 664 watts.
Good, she didn't go to that dreaded number.
The reflected power is 2.1 watts. The SWR is 1.021.
Okay. 664, you got the numbers. It's probably a little bit more than that. So back to standby. Into the antenna. And we will check the SWR, make sure it didn't jump.
R 1.0.
And we're good.
PX power 40. PX power. PX
Back to SSB.
40.
And we're listening here. There's nobody there.
PX power 40.
Back to RTTY, because I have to
1.0.
adjust the antenna briefly with power. You know, some people say, now, why are you doing that? But your antenna can be a little off from the dummy load. And now we're going to tweak the plate load controls here. There we go.
The forward power is 643 watts.
Right?
The reflected power is 2.8 watts. The SWR is 1.121.
Okay, so not bad. 1.1, you're 2.8.
EX power 40.
And there we go. I'm tuned up to operate SSB. I don't do CW, but CW would be considerably less, but the procedure would be the same. I would probably tune it up for probably half that. But this is how I tune up for SSB, so usually I'll call here. If I have intent to call the station, I'll move off, tune up into my dummy load, get the amp straightened away, and then come out and tune the antenna. So that's my tune-up procedure thanks to the TW1. Now, I'll put the amp in standby. Afraid I stepped on the gas pedal by mistake. So that's SSB operation. Now, another mode of choice of mine, one of the digital modes, is FT8 and FT4. So that's pretty much how I tune up for FT8 and tune up for FT4. I just don't go beyond 10 watts. So you know how I did a 10 watt, 20 watt, 40 watt? Well, when I want to do FT8, FT4, I don't go beyond that. I just do a 10 watt tune up. And then tune up my antenna as you heard. So, as you can see, without the TW1, I'd be restricted to just a 100 watt rig or a very expensive solid state amp, which wouldn't require me the meter because, look, the radio tells me,
EX power 40.
right? So I really wouldn't need that operating a solid state amp because it tells me I'm putting 40 watts into the amplifier. If I jump to
3.795
P up,
R 1.0.
it tells me my SWR. I can also get the ALC. So with a solid state amp, this would be pretty much seamless. And a fully automatic, and a full auto tuner like the MFJ 998, which I also had at one time, or Palstar or whatever, because you could just key up and set everything to automatically tune, or with the proper interface cable, you can just hit your tune button on your rig and it will tune the tuner. And in solid state amps, you can even, it can even put the amp in temporary standby while you're tuning. So it would be just like operating a kilowatt rig. So, and I fear that that's what's coming down the pipe very, very soon for us blind hams, and that's, you're going to have $8,000 on your, to buy an FTDX10 an amplifier combo, or a 7300 an amplifier combo, and that's a lot of money, $8,000. Most of us blind hams too are of low income. We either have some sort of disability, pensions, old age security, what have you. So that doesn't, give you much for an $8,000 or $9,000 station. Is might be out of the realm of possibility. And so if that's the case, then we would be restricted to 100 watts. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. There are lots of people who do quite well with DX with 100 watts. Because you can focus your dollars then onto great antennas, certainly. I have a beam and it works really well. I used it all summer with 100 watts because I didn't have an amplifier. And it worked really, really well. So the TW1, yep, long in the tooth, and they come out every now and again, but they're getting rare. They're getting rare, and like I said, I'm also staring down the barrel of probably a $7,000-8,000 upgrade. Because without that meter there, I would not be able to operate this amplifier. I would not be able to operate this manual antenna tuner. And, before this meter came out, I had help in operating an amplifier. It was all done by presets with braille markings and but that can get scary as well because your load tolerances can be can adjust with operating and things like that. And I don't relish the idea of tormenting my wife every time I want to operate. Can you tune up this amplifier for me? I want to operate on 80 meters or 20 meters or what have you. That'll get pretty old fast. So I am staring down that barrel, and I'm thinking in 18 months I'm going to be making a very, very major purchase because you know what will happen, right? You know what will happen. I'll make the purchase of a $5,000, $6,000 solid state amplifier and and automatic antenna tuner combo, and then I'll need to look at probably $3,000 as an HF rig. So, I am looking at that, and it's I've got a purchase in mind in 18 months, and we'll see how that goes. So that's the TW1. A very big part of my ham radio operating procedure, as you heard. There's not much to show on it. Like I said, there's no glass, there's nothing. It's just a squawking box, and that's how I operate. So I hope you got some idea of that. Close your eyes and put on a good pair of headphones and visualize. Just because I don't see this stuff, I have to touch it, and things like that. So when I'm listening to YouTube videos, that's a lot of it that I'm doing because I can't see it. So I'm putting on a good pair of headphones to get the feel, to hear it in detail, and that sort of thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and got some idea if you put on a pair of decent headphones or just turned up your computer speakers a little bit, to get a feel for how I actually operate being sighted impaired. So there's not much to see except my ugly mug when I'm doing intros or when I'm trying to focus on the gear here, putting the camera in place. And so there you go. So again, thank you all for taking the time to subscribe. And the next segment in my series, I will do an FT8 and an FT4 operating segment. I use two pieces of software for that, and I'll demonstrate those in the next one. Yeah, so that will be the final video in this series, and I'll even throw in my rotor as well. I'll show you how I use my rotor. It's a Yaesu G800 DXA, and you can remove the front face, and there's a hand there, so I'll focus the camera on that so you can see the braille that I have done and things like that, and I'll spin it and so on. So, alright, okay, thanks again, and we will see you in part 3 of my ham radio operating procedure. Till the next time, guys, take care, and 73 from Mike VO1OP.
Finder. Recording type 1320. 17%. 1.0. Pause recording.